Hi, I'm Zarina from Prana Chai, and we're here talking to James from Human Tabasco. We recently did a little collab with him, so just wanted to ask a few questions. Tell us how you got from like hospitality, content creation, and comedy as well. Tell us how you got from one to another and why you wanted to join everything together.
Sort of like late teens and like early 20s, I was sort of tempted and failed at various like degrees at university and all that. The whole time I was doing so, I was working in hospitality. Eventually did a creative arts degree, working hospitality the whole time, then moved into stand-up comedy and then moved to the US and lived there for like 8 years doing stand-up comedy. But the whole time I was trying those degrees or completing those degrees and doing the stand-up comedy, the one constant that whole time was working cafes, restaurants, bars. And eventually I stepped away from stand-up and decided that like I still wanted to be like creative and like do something in that world, but not exactly stand-up. So I decided, why don't I do the content? But I was like, what am I going to do? And the answer sort of came to me pretty easily in the end, where I was like, the one constant over these like 15 years of like trying and doing different various things is the restaurant work or working in the hospitality industry. At the time I was like, not jaded, but like starting to like find like a lot of issues with the way people would behave in restaurants and all that sort of stuff. So I said, why don't I create the content and make it about the hospitality industry, but like, you know, like have a specific voice where I like highlight some of that stuff that I don't particularly like, but also celebrate the industry as well.
And then how did you kind of come up with this character for your, like Human Tabasco? How did you even come up with that name?
The name came like long before I even started doing the content, actually. I was still doing stand-up at the time. I sort of just had this thought that maybe I needed like a catchy Instagram handle to try and like, just sort of more immediately capture people's attention, which isn't how you should do things, which I don't think is correct. You should focus on the quality of your craft and your art foremost, more so than anything else. But I think I was like looking for like an easy like grab of people's attention.
Yeah.
So that came while I was still doing stand-up. And when I stepped away from stand-up and like decided to do the content, I did think about like, do I change my handle or anything like that? And it was the same handle across TikTok, YouTube, and I think at the time I had Twitter or X or whatever it was. And I thought, oh no, it sort of just works. Not for any particular, I guess Tabasco is a brand of hot sauce and that is relevant to the restaurant industry. I did think about it and I was like, I don't think I need to change it at all. It sort of for some reason just makes sense.
How did you come across Prana Chai? Did you know about Prana Chai before this collaboration? And what made you want to say yes to collaborating with us?
Funnily enough, I've known about Prana Chai for a long time. So I have worked in a lot of cafes and despite my last 8 years being in the US, before that, a lot of cafes in Melbourne where Prana was prominent for a long time. So I think like the first 3 cafes I worked at in Melbourne, I was a lot younger back then, but like all used Prana. And so, this is a long time ago. So, I mean, it's a credit to Prana for standing for so long, especially in the Australian scene. When Prana approached me, there was no sort of like confusion or anything. Having Prana be so familiar to me already, there was like none of that. So I was like, I already just know exactly who these people are. It also felt like a full circle moment. Because I honestly think the first time I would have worked with Prana in regards to like using the product in a place that I was employed would have been around 12, 13 years ago, I think.
Wow.
And then sort of stepped away into working in the US and then have recently returned to Australia and then funnily enough just work with Prana in not exactly within the cafe, but like in a different space being the content.
So talk us through then the creative process of coming up with the video and the concept for...
It came quite easily, which is you know, I feel like that's rare to say, because like more often than not, you have to sit down and like, you know, rack your brain, like how am I going to do this? How am I going to do it? Like, how is it going to seem like organic, and how is it going to be funny? How is it going to, you know, tick all the boxes, right? But I immediately thought back to my experience using Prana in the cafes that I would work at. And even once again, mentioning even being in the US for 8 years where I wasn't using Prana, I still have memories of before that time working in Melbourne in cafes here. People would always ask, their first question would be, do you use powder or do you use sticky leaf?
Yes.
Like, you know, they'd call you over from the table and ask you that. And then I would say sticky leaf. And the next question was always, which brand do you use? And what I started to, and this happened like surprisingly often, if people were looking for a chai latte or something. Because it was happening so often, what I started learning was, all they're wanting me to say, they're just wanting me to get to the point where I say that we stock Prana. Because if I say we stock Prana, they're going to order that chai latte. Or they're at least not going to be like disappointed by me saying, oh, we use a powder or a concentrate. Yeah, it just became clear very quickly that that's what they wanted me to say. So when I was thinking of the idea, thinking of what to do, that just came to me really quickly. It was even funny because like when I used to say it, when it used to like get to the point where I would say we use Prana, it was like this like large amount of stress would like leave their body. It'd be like a relief for them. They'd sort of like their shoulders would sort of drop and be like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
I can order my chai now.
Yeah.
You know, never was there a point where you know, they'd say powder or sticky leaf, and you'd say sticky leaf, and then you'd say Prana. Never was there a point where someone said, like, oh, like, oh, I was hoping you'd say powder or you use a concentrate. It was always just that like wave of relief coming over them, so they could now order their chai with confidence.
Talking about actually the piece itself, the content, what was the reaction from the audience, and were you kind of surprised by their response to the video that you made? No,
not surprised at all. Largely positive. There was the other element of like commenting on the behaviour of some customers. So some of the engagement was focused on that, but all the engagement that was focused on the Prana side of things was very positive, and also like sort of backed up my point of like that's all people want to know, because there were a few comments where someone was like, no, but seriously, like that is what it is. Yeah. And then other people were like commenting like, you know, but Prana is the best and stuff like that. Someone commented on it saying this used to be the same conversation with bonsai soy milk. And then that made me think of like, that was sort of true from back in the day when I remember that question being asked about Prana. I was like, oh, people did used to go nuts for that soy milk.
I think they still do.
Yeah. But no, very, very, very mostly positive, and very much just highlighting the point I was trying to make.
Yeah. And do you have any cool, exciting projects or collaborations coming up that you can share or that you want to share?
Not specifically. Me and a friend are in the works of just doing a collaboration at his restaurant up in Queensland. You know, sort of like early concept discussions at the moment, hopefully to execute on that in a couple of months. He has like a all day service restaurant, and does a few cool things out of there. So I met him we worked together in the US years ago. So he's back there doing his thing now, and but yeah, can't exactly give a date or anything at the moment, but that'll be coming up, and obviously I'll be putting that on my socials and everything like that. And apart from that, just some decent stand-up. I'm back doing stand-up now as well, so just got some decent shows coming up. And
awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for coming by, and the collaboration was great.
Yeah, thanks so much, Serena.
Well.
Yeah,
cool.
Cheers.